The horrors go on, but this time it's personal. Welcome back to Dungeons & Dragons Horror Stories, where usually I go on Reddit so you don't have to. But today, you have brought the Reddit to me. We're switching things up a little bit this week. This time, we are reading stories that viewers like you have submitted to me. I have vetted these stories slightly for content and also to give some of them titles that don't have them, but a majority of it I am reading for the first time. Without further ado, let's jump in. Hey there, Future Brett here. I was editing this video and I realized I forgot to put content warnings at the beginning of this story. So, the sensitive subjects covered in this include abuse, drug use, and drugging. And if those are triggering subjects for you, there will be a timestamp on the screen. Go ahead and skip forward to there and you can enjoy the video from there. On with the video. This first one comes from user Tal, and I have titled it, In-Game Romance Goes South. Let's see what it's about. Oh geez, this story was a while ago. Please excuse if anything is fuzzy because of this. I and a group of my friends, 4 of us, decided to run a D&D game. I had been a part of one before and greatly enjoyed it, so I excitedly made a character and joined their campaign. The members included me, an elf wizard, X, a fallen ASMR sorcerer, Sapphire, an elf druid, and the DM. X was my brother, and I was dating Sapphire's player. Okay, so, remember how I said I skimmed these stories? It might actually be an actual romance. So, wait, reverse it, scratch that, rewrite it, let's go for it. Okay, from the beginning, the game had a few problems. You see, Seema, my character, had a pretty hard backstory, but I usually played her as upbeat and friendly, as the hardships she'd gone through had only made her appreciate life more. Isn't that so true to life? However, Sapphire's player hated Seema. It started with her telling me that we couldn't date in-game as characters, which I was completely fine with. If not a little confused, I respected that. She would consistently make disparaging comments about her and how annoying she is. I resolved to ignore these comments, assuming they were jokes because whenever I asked, she said that nothing was wrong and no one else seemed to have a problem. X wasn't that into roleplay anyway. It only got worse though, seeping into her character. When our characters first met up, I decided that Seema was the type to give her friends nicknames, so she called the Sapphire Sappy. Sapphire immediately had her character attack mine, almost killing Seema because it's what my character would do. Oh my god. Okay, so many people like to hide red flags behind it's what my character would do. We had a Rick Sanchez person in a previous story try to hide behind it's what my character would do. That's bullshit. Almost killing somebody over a nickname is not what any sane person would do. I mean, growing up, they called me Twig, so I didn't try to kill anybody over that, you know? Off to an excellent start. I immediately backed off. But every time Seema would say Sapphire's name, Sapphire would glare at Seema until Seema finished the word. I still played Seema as wanting to be friends with Sapphire, chugging through the hatred without a word. But Sapphire continued to hit and scream at Seema, which I was getting pretty uncomfortable with because it felt like an abuse thing, and we hadn't talked about that at all. So, they're talking about an actual romance, right? These are 2 people that are dating at the table. I am of the opinion that a D&D character is really a hint into a part of a person's psyche. I know this may be going too deep into things, but I feel like all things are connected. You know what I mean? The fact that X is role-playing Sapphire as a highly abusive person that uses violence to solve problems rather than talking about it is a red flag. Run for the hills. Oh my god. But also, like, red flag aside, if the character had just, like, they didn't like nicknames, you know, glaring at them until they finish the name is really funny to me. I like that. But the rest of it fucking blows. I should have talked to her at that point, but I'm really bad at confrontation and was even worse at that time. That wasn't even the end of it. Suddenly, without warning, Sapphire and the DM introduced drugs into the campaign. I was a bit uncomfortable at this, especially because they portrayed Sapphire as a very intense Wait, what? Especially since they portrayed Sapphire as a very intense addict. All right, so this goes back to consent at the table. DMs, make sure you have consent from all players when, some triggering subjects are involved. Not saying that OP has background in something like this, but oh my god, just make sure you have consent. That's basically the long and short of it, especially because they portrayed Sapphire as a very intense addict. But I didn't feel like I was allowed to say anything because it wasn't my character. Then Sapphire began giving Seema drugs without telling her what they were. Oh, no. God damn, okay. So, we've moved from abuse to drug addiction to drugging people. This is like a train spotting spiral. I don't like this. I don't like where this is going. I took them because Seema really wanted to be Sapphire's friend and would have taken them. Okay. Alright, so at this point, if you're ever in a situation like this, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you are uncomfortable at the table, make sure to voice it. Please voice it. I understand confrontation is very scary. I used to have a fear of confrontation, but when it's something like this, it's red flags right after the other. You know what I mean? So you have to voice it. And if you feel like you can't voice it, don't be afraid of running. When it comes to fear, there's fight, flight, and freeze, right? Gotta train the freeze out of you. It's either fight or flight, and both of those are good options. Fight is doing the confrontation. Flight is getting yourself out of the situation. You know what I mean? So, if you ever find yourself in the situation, please either voice your discomfort or run. Because your comfort is more important than anything else. Know what I mean? Then the DM told me that Seema was now addicted to drugs. Fuck! Bad DM on top of it. I tried to say no, but he said that she had taken the drugs and this was the consequences. I got immensely uncomfortable and tried to say no, but ended up agreeing to it. However, it made me so uncomfortable that one session later, I decided to just say fuck it and leave. Good for you. Oh God. Thank you. Thank you for getting out of there. This is such a bad situation. There are much better tables out there. I don't care if these are your friends or if you agree with it. This is really bad stuff. Like, these are very uncomfortable and intense scenarios that really should have been talked about before they were brought up in the campaign. Don't get me wrong, I've introduced spice to a campaign, I've put alcohol in a campaign, but it's always been for shits and giggles. You know what I mean? It's never been like, oh, you've taken too much of it, you're now deathly addicted, you're gonna spend all your gold on it now, and if you don't get it, you're gonna suffer through withdrawals. That's fucking bullshit. If you're a DM, don't do that, unless it's expressly talked about. You know what I mean? Even then, I would shy away from that. Because that's not fun. That's like, hey guys, I've got this new game I want us to try. Oh yeah, what's the game? I love playing new board games. Oh yeah, it's actually right here. It's called Let's All Get Addicted to Heroin. Yay! That scenario doesn't exist. Don't. God. X agreed that this wasn't really fun anymore, and the other players begged us to have at least one final sessions to end things with a bang. Not one more. Okay, I should have said no. It started great, we defeated the BBEG, and we're going to go back to the bar and celebrate. When Sapphire suddenly used an explosion spell I didn't know she had and killed both herself and me, there was no chance for me to escape. I tried to plane shift, but the DM told me I didn't have time to react and died immediately. What? Imagine hating a nickname so bad you 9/11 yourself. That's stupid. Oh my god. And also, like, on top of it, the DM saying, nope, no save, you just die. Oh my god. Didn't roll damage, didn't roll a saving throw, nothing like that. They revived Sapphire and had her kill X before killing herself again. What the fuck is this? X was the most powerful character in our party because he was more focused on fighting than RP. But nope, he also died instantly, even though there were a million things he could have done to block it. Anyway, I left the call after that and never really talked about it again. Broke up with Sapphire's player a little later. That's fucking heavy. That's heavy. Okay. So I'm going to walk through this story real quick, right? Join a game. In the game, fun-loving character with a hard past meets another character. That character apparently hates everybody and hates everything. Fun-loving character decides to give bad character a nickname. Doesn't like nickname, almost kills her. Red flag number 1. Throughout it, every time they'd say the nickname, they'd glare at her or slap her or scream at her. Red flag number 2. After that, drugs are introduced into the game, unconsensually. Red flag number 3. Bad player starts dosing fun-loving player without her consent. Red flag number 4. After that, decides it's too much. Decide, come back for one last session, please. Refer to 4 previous red flags as to not do that. And after that, bad player, after killing BBEG, blows up herself and fun-loving character. Red flag number 5, other party members revive the one who did the blowing up. Red flag number 6, she then kills the most powerful player in the party. Red flag number 7, and then kills herself again. Red flag number 8. That is almost a perfect game in bowling. That's too many strikes. And she didn't even get spared. Ooh. Oh my god. Tal, I am so sorry this happened to you. This is absolutely horrible. 1, I'm glad you got out of that situation. I'm sorry they gave you one last session where things went even further south than they have already gone. Number 2, I'm glad you broke up with your partner because they seem like the most toxic person of all time. There are so many red flags in their D&D character, I can only imagine what they were like in real life. You know what I mean? And number 3, I hope you're in a good game. You seem like an amazing player. You had an excellent backstory for your character, and I love it so much. I hope that D&D is treating you right. Oh my god. Off with a bang. On to the next. This next one comes from user Artmonzo, and it is titled, 5e can beat any system if you homebrew enough. Are we sure we glad we fought to keep the open gaming license? Like, was that... Never mind, let's jump in. This is a bit more of a rant from one of my current groups, but I hate that they will not try anything but D&D 5e. I've tried to introduce them to any other system, but I was always told that you can just homebrew it and introduce me to a new homebrew or third-party book. I have given them books off my shelf to read. Though I never got around to doing so, I have been told at least once or twice, it seems like a waste of money when D&D is so moldable and flexible for any setting. Yeah, well, they're not wrong. I mean, it's right. D&D is very moldable, and you can put it in basically anything. But, I mean, other systems are fun too. Call of Cthulhu is fun. Kids on Bikes is fun. Mutants and Masterminds is fun. All Flesh Must Be Eaten is fun. Don't feel bad if your group is not willing to play other systems. Just join another group as well, you know? You can still play with them. You have another group too. You're not locked into one group, you know what I mean? Savage World. The combat seems way too complex compared to D&D. Why are playing cards instead of D20s for initiative? Traveler, Starfinder, or any sci-fi. Why spend so much time doing characters when you can add lasers to D&D? Mutants and Masterminds. You know there are superhero mods for D&D 5e, and if you want something that uses D20, why not stick to D&D? Fate, 2D20, and Genesis. Why pay for something with non-standard dice when you can play D&D? Mind you, we play online on Roll20. These are all valid points, in my opinion. The group is simplifying it too much, you know? Essentially, what the group is saying is, why play another board game when Monopoly has so many different versions? You're gonna get a different feel out of Apples to Apples than Monopoly. So, when it was close to Halloween, I suggested running a one-shot of Call of Cthulhu set in our home county. I reskinned the hunting starter module and spent a good month redoing the articles on InDesign and Photoshop to flavor it closer to the Bay Area. I made some pre-made ones for people who wanted to jump in and offered to help people who were more invested in making characters. So we sat down for the first session of 4 planned for the month, and 2 members of a 6-person group wondering what the hell was in front of them. The 2 I'll call Game Mom and Working Joe started to ask why this was COC and not COC 5e. They were prepared for 5e. I told them at no point did I say 5e. They both started going off about how I could have done it in 5e easily, that we were too old to be learning a whole new system. They were in their mid-20s. Fuck. Ah, yes, the ripe old age of 26. Listen here, you young whippersnappers. I'm too old to be learning a different system, you see. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Dude, you're like a year older than me and I'm 24. Exactly, I'm older, therefore wiser. I get it. I get it. I'm in my mid-20s too. And you start to feel age at like your mid-20s, right? Your knees aren't working as good. Maybe you fucked up your back a little bit earlier in life. You always have a kink in your neck, but it doesn't mean your mind's any less sharp than it was 2 years ago. This is stupid. They both started going off about how I could have done it in 5e easily, and that we were too old to be learning a whole new system. They were in their mid-20s, and that we would have to learn a new system from scratch. They also said it would take too long to make their characters even to play, and I just should have done it in D&D, as people do not want to come to this after a long day of work and taking care of kids. I counted each point, made pre-mades, and used digital sheets to do the rolls for you. I also made quick play cards for handouts. This will be over 4 sessions, so we have time to play and learn. No, like, okay, OP has absolutely covered every single box. Oh, but it'll take too long to make characters. Pre-made characters. Oh, but I don't want to figure out how to roll dice. Program for rolling dice. Oh, but like, it won't be as prepared as our D&D sessions. Pre-made handouts. Like, OP, you have done everything right. Your group sounds like a bunch of lamos. They sound boring as all hell. I was countered with, we should make our own characters instead of using pre-made for immersion. That the delays of what to look up rules would break immersion and make the game slog. No one here wants this. This is a D&D group after all. Fucking A. They sound like a bunch of babies. Oh my god. I get it. D&D is really fun. I love playing D&D. It's one of my favorites. But come on. Even for a short time, just a month. It's a month of your life. Just give it a shot. You know what I mean? The others joined the other 2 to keep the peace. I pulled out an AI mod called Volvo's Wake, which should take us about 5 hours at least, and I can run it from memory. So we spent 1 session making characters, the pair debating me about using point buy or standard array instead of dice rolls, being so-called old for wanting to use the balanced and faster character builder. Half the party spends the time trying to fish for 18s. The second session, the Working Joe spends an hour and 30 of a 4-hour session depending rewards for the quest, despite everyone pointing out that the mini campaign would last long enough for gold to be useful, and was hit with the, it's what my character would do. God damn it. I don't give a shit if it's what your character would do. Don't be dumb, don't be rude. It basically comes down to that. It's what my character would do, and could be resolved if I just made the quest giver say yes already. The last 2 got canceled. Surprise work shifts on the 3rd session, and everyone being so late we would have less than an hour on the 4th session. That blows. Oh, that sucks so much. The whole time this was happening, the group was asking me if I was okay. I seemed agitated and upset. I was upset. I think the goal eating of the legs of the dwarf ballerina was the giveaway. I don't know what that... Okay. I'm just gonna accept it. I'm gonna take it in, and I'm gonna keep going. I spent so much time on the Call of Cthulhu game, even showing the handles I made for the game. My group mom told me that if I had come to her earlier, she could have helped me homebrew it into 5e. That's not the point. That's not the point. I get it. Like, that falls under the things of, I think I'm being helpful, but it's really not helpful. OP just wanted to try out a new system. That's all they wanted to do. That's all they ever wanted to do. You know what I mean? I keep on re-emphasizing that DMs need to have the pulse on everybody at the table. But it's good practice for the players to have the pulse on the DM as well. You know, if they're getting overwhelmed, if they're getting frustrated, if they're getting agitated, check in with them. The best analogy I can come up with for this scenario is like, you want to go buy a new car, right? You're so excited. You go to the dealership, you bring in your old car to trade in, and upon the initial inspection, they tell you that you have a cracked axle, right? So you drive it home, you tell your friends about it, and one of your friends pops up and says, "Oh, don't worry, I can help you fix that." It's like, I'm glad that you can help me fix it, but that wasn't what I was trying to do. Side note, I wasn't sure where to add this fact, but the whole group is on the spectrum, myself included. I'm sure they didn't mean to hurt my feelings with some of the stuff they do or say, but still, who joins a hobby with so many different games to try and just focus on the most corporate garbage possible? So, OP, I hear you. I understand you. But here's the deal. Is like, I get it. It's frustrating. Your group were being babies. They weren't willing to try out a new system. But comfortability is very important in a group. Just playing devil's advocate here. Comfortability is very important to a person, especially to somebody on the spectrum. I hear you. I don't agree with what your group did, but I'm also not agreeing with what you're saying. I'm not. Because if they're most comfortable in 5e and you are aware that they're on the spectrum, then why are you pushing so hard to change their comfortability? I'm of the opinion that you should try new things, and it doesn't matter how old you are. You can always try a new thing. You can always learn a new skill. But on the other hand, they're comfortable. So you probably should have initially from the get, understanding all of this information and taking it all into account. I get that you're comfortable with this group, but if you want to try a new thing, you got to get outside of your comfort zone because you're pushing them outside of theirs. I get where you're coming from. I really get where they're coming from too, though. So, I don't know. If this was an Am I the Asshole? I'd say everybody's an asshole in this situation. Nonetheless, moving on. So, to end this video as a little special treat to reset ourselves and get us thinking more positive, we are actually going to read not a horror story, but a D&D glory story. I've been asking y'all for glory stories and horror stories. For those that don't know, glory stories are the opposite of a horror story. It's when things go extremely right, either expectedly or unexpectedly. A plan goes exactly as planned. A plan doesn't go as planned, but does something really funny and succeeds in the future. Something really funny happens, not at the expense of others. For this one, it is by Abby K. That's their name on YouTube and the name of their Tumblr blog. And it is titled, My Brother's Sensory Issues Saved Our Party. Hell yeah, let's go. It's worth mentioning that this entire campaign is a glory story. My brother and I are currently in a campaign with my friends, who are all amazing. We're all actors with the exception of our wizard, who does lights and sound. So we take... I'm sorry, going off like an initial bit, I'm an actor, I'm also a stage tech. I do all this type of things. I'm like mostly work as a comedian, but I'm a stage tech as well, trained in sound and lights and stuff like that. And I love that, like, one, that they include the techie in there. You always gotta include the techies in the fun things. They like to party too. But I love that all of them are actors, but of course, the stage tech picked the most technical class of all time. I love that so much. So we take our role playing very seriously. Our DM is super passionate and an awesome storyteller who has also prioritized fun. All around good vibes. The story begins at our first session. My character, an artificer, enters the mountains and stumbles across an underground palace and fighting ring of our first enemy, a 15-foot lich made of adamantine. Ho 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 ho. That's spooky. I like it. Cool. Our DM describes this lich as wearing a red velvet toga, and the palace having a red velvet carpet. My brother physically shuddered when he heard that. Me too, my guy. Me too. I hate velvet. Oh god, it's just, it sticks to my hands, and I don't I don't like that at all. He and I both have ADHD, and he always hated the texture of velvet. We all laughed and continued on. To tease my brother, the DM started describing any and all possible sources of the fabric being made of velvet. That's so fun. Just like, alright, as you enter the palace, you notice that the red velvet carpet sprawls out in front of you, and the 15-foot lich standing in front of you is wearing a toga made of red velvet. Oh, sorry, I hate the texture of velvet. It just like it sticks to my hand and I don't. Oh, okay, got it. So, wearing a red velvet toga. As you go through the palace hallways, you notice that the red velvet curtains, which if you touch them, sticks to your hand and crunches oh, come on, and the red velvet couch that lays in the hallway, you sit on it and you hear the crunchiness and it sticks to your no, stop, stop, that's fun, I like that. Fast forward to our battle with the lich. An NPC who worked for him revealed that he had one weakness, an oil leak on his neck, which was hidden by the toga. Luckily, we had me, a fire genasi, and a wizard who could create fire. The NPC gave our rogue an enchanted flaming arrow. That left our last three characters, a bard, a paladin, and a monk. We were trying to figure out how to set their weapons on fire when someone suggested that we wrap them in the fabric. Then it hit us. We were now surrounded by velvet. Ha! Yeah! Think outside the box! Outside the box. I love that. Yes! Because velvet is made of thousands of tiny loose threads, it's much more flammable than standard fabric. So, we were able to fight the lich with an extra flammable fabric and didn't have to worry about it taking too long to start flaming. Oh! I would be so proud as a DM. I would be so proud. Making things velvet that don't need to be velvet as a bit, and then your players turning that bit against you, I would be the proudest of papas. I would be the proudest of papas. I would be like, yep, I deserve this. That's amazing. So in the end, we learned that sensor issues are good for something after all. Hell yeah, they are. That's amazing. The proudest of papas, and I'm very proud of you and all of the people at your table, and I hope you're doing well. Those were some great stories. Thank you so much to Tal, Art Monzo, and Abby K. Those stories were really fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. If you have a horror story or a glory story that you would like to see read on this channel, there is a form in this video's description. Go ahead and give it a click. Make sure to click which one it is, horror or glory, and then write it in the style of a post on r/RPG horror stories, whether it's a horror or glory story, doesn't matter. And also, if you could do me a favor, make sure to include what you would title that story at the top of your story. But, nonetheless, thank you so much for sticking with me. I had fun today. I hope you had fun today. If you had fun, go ahead and like and subscribe because there's going to be more videos coming out in the future. And go ahead and leave a comment telling me which of these stories was your favorite or least favorite, depending on how you look at it. But for now, I will say Auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, and I will catch you in the next one.